Welcome back to another episode of Sparkle on Substack with me, Claire Venus. I'm so excited to have Vicky with me today. Vicky and I have been chatting on Substack for what feels like ages. It's probably not
Yeah.
that long. It feels like ages. So I'm so excited for us to chat in real time like this. I think with messages going backwards and forwards, you have a sense of who somebody is. And I've seen Vicky change their publication a few times, and it's just been so beautiful to watch different evolvements of that. So today we're going to get into everything that's been going on for the last 18 months and also explore this moment of the paid launch. And I know lots of you listening will be really into that. Like, when is it the right moment to go paid? So, welcome, Vicky. Lovely to see you.
It's very exciting to be here.
Oh, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody that's listening? Tell us a little bit about why you landed on Substack and what you're about.
Yeah, so I'm Vicki Lesley, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. And I worked in TV for years and years, 25 years. But alongside that, about 10, well, more than 10 years ago now, I started making a feature documentary kind of in my own time, and gradually I stopped the TV work to do that. And that was a big, like a massive epic project that took really about a decade altogether, and it was released in May 2020, which was obviously not the best time. Cinemas were all shut. We were in the global pandemic. So that film came out. I also had my daughter at the same, about 2 months before the film came out. So 2020, I mean, it was a big time in the world, but it was a big time for me. Unbelievably, that's already 5 years ago. But the first sort of few years after that happened, I was on maternity leave. I was releasing my film. I was sort of, TV had sort of gone away. I mean, that's another thing we can talk about. The TV industry that I had left to make this film is in turmoil. So I kind of, probably a couple of years ago, I got to a point of like, well, what am I doing now? I want to make more films, but it was took like a massive toll on me, really. So I was trying to think, what am I going to do? And how I came to Substack was through the wonderful Susanna Conway. I took her business course, and I think this was sort of Substack Mark One for her. She had been on Substack initially, got very excited about it. And so, yeah, I thought this sounds amazing. I had always had a newsletter through making my film, but that was just really talking about the process of making that film. And I thought, well, what do I like doing? I did like doing that. I liked writing to people, although I didn't generally hear back from them, but I did enjoy it. So the idea of kind of having a space online where I could be figuring out in real time, like, what am I going to do next, was quite nice, and sort of some accountability for me as well. So I just came a bit like, I think, what you did. I did mention it. I wasn't sending the newsletter out hardly at all by that point because the film was out. There wasn't that much more to say. But I did say I was on Substack, but I think the first thing I sent out had like 5 people, two of those were me. And then like my boyfriend,
Yeah.
my brother and my best friend, got that
Yeah.
first email. And then I decided to try and do a weekly sort of blog, I guess, of like, what am I doing in my life and figuring out my life. And as I was doing that, I found you, I found Substack, I found the community. And so gradually I've just been, still I feel like I'm in this very slow turn of the wheel to like the next phase. And I wasn't expecting Substack itself to be sort of part of that. I was expecting it to be a place I'll be talking about what that was. And it is. But I guess I've been surprised by it itself.
Yeah.
It feels like it's turning into something like a part of something bigger. And so it's been a wonderful place to sort of come. Like I was on Twitter, Celeste said about that, but I was never on Instagram. I never really kind of did social media that much. So this whole sort of online world and community that I found has just been delightful, really, and just a lovely place to be.
It is a lovely place to be. And I know we talk about that a lot in the podcast, but I think that we really want to get that across because it is such a friendly, genuine place to put your words or your audio or your video and be able to build community around that. And so you've been doing that. And we were chatting a little bit before, that's been about 18 months now, hasn't it? Of you kind of committing to a regular creative practice that involves sharing your work. And you're at about 1,000 subscribers and you're looking at, okay, like, what do I create that is extra and behind a paywall, or more intimate and behind a paywall? So you're at that point of kind of going, okay, like, it feels the right time and I feel good about it. You're about to go into a launch. So we thought we'd just chat a little bit more about that, like getting to that point and then how you feeling on the edge of that. And then obviously by the time the podcast comes out in audio form, that'll all have happened, which will be really beautiful. But today, if you watch it on YouTube or any time in the next little while, you can go ahead and watch Vicky's journey with that, which I think is gorgeous. So you're there. What are you feeling? Like, what's going to happen? Tell me about it.
Well, so what I'm going to do is, I guess, leaning into the kind of membership version of a paid
Hmm.
offering. I'm launching a film club, which I'm going to be calling the Film Thread.
Love
And what
it.
I want to do is, so I've been doing a lot of Q&As, online Q&As with my film since it came out, because, well, that's what you do with a film, but they've been, so many of them were online because obviously initially we were in the pandemic. So I've just discovered that I really enjoy that kind of online group discussion. I've also been in an online book group that I found through the film club, through my film distribution. So that's what I'm going to launch. And what it's going to be is like themes, so sort of seasons, which is partly from knowing myself.
Mm.
You know, I want to freshen it up every so often, but I'm going to start with atomic subject, because my own feature documentary is about the history of like civil nuclear power, peaceful nuclear power. So a lot of people on my mailing list, especially who've come with me from that film, I know that that's a subject that they're interested in.
Hmm.
So it's going to be over, well, for the rest of this year, the first sort of season, and we'll give it a go. I mean, it's an iterative process, and I've got a plan, or I've got an idea of what it can be, but it's only when I do it that I'll kind of
Mm.
see if it's what people want and how people feel about it. But my idea is that we take a subject. It will be atomic things to start with. Looking to the start of next year, if unless things change, I want to do autism, because my son is fairly recently diagnosed autistic. There are some really fascinating movies over a longer period of time. The idea of this, I guess, is to sort of take one thing and really sort of tug on the thread, like to
Mm.
explore it more deeply. So over decades at different countries. So I will be kind of curating, I guess, like a playlist. So
Mm.
you don't have to come. I will send out a kind of primer for the film. We then, watch it in our own time, and then once a month we come together to discuss that film. And if you can make it live, obviously great. If you can't, there'll be a replay. And also, I mean, I don't know, but this will be something to see what you think. The chat
Mm.
thread,
Hmm.
as is the case for so many people, still I think it's like 96% of my subscribers are reading an email.
Hmm.
Whether they will come to a chat thread on Substack, I don't know.
Mm.
But I kind of like the idea that that some people don't want to come on a Zoom call and talk necessarily, but they might
Hmm.
feel like they want to, they might want to write something or just thoughts. So we'll see. I'm going to launch that chat thread and we'll see how that goes. Um, so yeah, so that's the loose plan. I'm trying to keep it quite not be too prescriptive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for the it's for the audience, I guess, to reflect back to me, is this something that they want? But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
excited by it, so that's the first thing, isn't it? It has to be something you want to do, and I feel excited about turning up once a month and having the prompt to watch these interesting films, to talk about them with people who are also interested in them. So we'll see.
It sounds really fun as well, like to be able, because how many times have you like seen a film and be like, who can I tell?
Yeah,
Like, who cares? So it's really nice to build a collective around that. To answer your question on chat, like it needs to have a really specific boundary for it to work, I think. So I took mine from having a really specific boundary to being like, okay, like you guys just want to chat to each other and that's beautiful, but I can't read all this stuff. So like
yeah,
go
yeah,
for it. So whoever's online can obviously ask a question and then people can get responses and it's only for paid members, which makes it feel like a really safe and intimate space. But if all sort of nearly 500 members wanted to chat on there, that would just be absolutely insane. So I think
yeah,
knowing that it will only be a small portion of the people is good because then you're like, okay, so like if my goal is like we talked about this before we start recording, if my goal is 50 and I get 30 in this first wave, that'll feel amazing. But
yeah,
maybe three or four of them might chat in chat. And then you would put the join Vicky's subscriber chat button in the footer of your emails and you would explain it's like a WhatsApp chat on a Monday every single week. I open the thread and we talk about X, so they've got the specifics because the amount of people that I've seen start chats and it's like literally just noise. And I'm like, we cannot consume any more internet noise.
Yeah.
Like it has to be specific and it has to be of value or inspiring or in service. Like it has to have that specific, I think. And I think that's the mistake people made. And if you notice some of the like really high selling Substack owners, they don't have chat switched on because they're very clear with their boundaries. Like the
Yeah.
chat is the comments, right? So it's like, I think people are like, oh, yeah, like I'll do chat, but it's like, does it serve the purpose of what it is that you're here to deliver? Like,
Yeah.
if it does, then great, make it specific, have your boundaries around it. If it doesn't, turn that thing off because the amount of chats that I just leave because they've left them open for everyone and some sort of like random like wades in and says something that's like, yeah, patriarchal or just
Yeah,
misogynistic. And I'm
I've
just
seen
like,
that a lot.
no,
Yeah,
like you are not
almost
protecting
like
your
advert
space.
kind of things
No.
popping in chats. Yeah.
No, and like for me, it's like one striking you out because I have to be so firm with my boundaries online because online is just epic and it's all the time. So I'm just like, no. So I don't know. I think lots of people do like to be distracted by online, but longer term, as we're holding people, it is about that like specifics and really clear boundaries and you inviting them into that beautiful safe space. So another part of that might be about teaching them how to leave the chats, which I've done a couple of times, being like, do you know you can leave chats? It's really easy. Press the three buttons and off you pop. So
Another
yeah,
thing
so
I did
that
is
could be really
a
beautiful.
time bounded thing. I think is it Lindsay Johnson? I'm trying to remember. A
Yeah,
therapy
on a Sunday she
that
does
we
really
open the
good.
chat
Yeah,
for this
hmm.
weekend or whatever,
Yeah,
and then
hmm.
close it. So I might do that maybe in the couple of days before we have the Zoom.
I think it's lovely on intimacy, and Lindsay's are great. Like what I find with Lindsay's is they're like at my kids' bedtime, and by the time I come to them, I'm like, I'm lost.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's like you've got to sort of capture people, haven't you? And like say this is what it's going to be. But the same thing if they're receiving an email and you want them to comment and tell you something, it might
yeah,
be also good to have the little polls in there, like would you like this or would you like this, and give them the options, when you insert the polls, because
yeah,
again, commenting on an email doesn't make any sense. So you'll
yeah.
see me say, hit reply. I'm a person on the other side of my email inbox because people do, and it's lovely. And then I can
Yeah,
like,
I do get some
yeah,
replies.
it's nice, isn't
I've
it?
always said it even when I was on the MailChimp, and I
Yeah,
wouldn't get, but I do
yeah.
get. It's also the time zone thing. I mean, you're a great you model everything, don't you? But with the Sparkle calls, there's one that's more kind of a UK based time. There's one that's more US focused. I mean, I know I currently have 3 paid subscribers.
Yeah,
So bless them,
gorgeous.
have just given subscribed just to support me, which is amazing. But one of those, he's in Australia,
Hmm.
so like I'm mindful of how likely is it that he would be able to come to any of those Zoom calls, unless I
Hmm.
deliberately, maybe I could deliberately schedule one at whatever. I guess it would be our morning.
So yeah, so the
So the
9:30 is
chat
good
thread,
for the
yeah,
Aussies and the New Zealand folk. So that's the 9:30. So I'll get the
that's their
Aussies.
evening.
Yeah, and that's like late in their evening, but it is their evening. And so the Americans, Canadians can't come at the 9:30 at all, which is then why I have the 3 o'clock slot as well. And it's why I've kept 2 calls a month because people don't feel invited. Like if my preference would be to do 9:30 and one call a month, because I feel I can offer a lot and I feel like I could do a 90 minutes and it could be one call a month and it'd be like really powerful. But because people need that accountability of being there live and to be in the live energy, like it has to be 2 calls a month. So even though it feels a lot, that's always then the permission slip to say, but it's okay. Like you don't have to catch up on these. This is just when I'm doing them and you're all invited. So with your thing, you could definitely ask people because that guy
Yeah,
might just be like, oh no, but I don't like Zooms anyway. And then you've programmed to try and like make sure he can come. And actually, it doesn't necessarily
yeah,
work. So you can definitely ask people. And then you could also, as it got busier, you could just float like if I do get 50 plus paid subscribers, I might look at putting these on twice. They would be shorter each time. Or when
yeah,
I might do two in a 2 month period, but they're on the same topic, so you could kind of breathe into what felt good for you. But I know that that was a lot of feedback that I had in the first year of Sparkle because I genuinely couldn't do 3 o'clock because of childcare with my daughter.
yeah.
So basically, I think like 1 o'clock was the latest I could do. And then I was like, okay, like once she goes into preschool, I really need to get this afternoon call in, and then it'll open up the possibilities for more American folks coming on in. And it did. So that was really good. But we don't have to do everything all at once either. Like we can grow into what we're offering. And so
Yeah,
we can have that vision for what you want it to feel like in 2 years' time. But then what's the first step towards that? And
yeah,
then just deliver that. Yeah. Yeah. We were going to chat about pledges as well, weren't we? So I was saying to you that even though you have 3 paid
yeah.
subscribers, I wanted to just explain to you how the changes with pledges have worked for a client that's currently in a launch period. So pledges used to be like lovely but useless. So we turned pledges on for the Substack Meets Publishing Summit last year that we did to promote the book. And it was just really like a thing, like why don't we have pledges on? I didn't have pledges on any other publications, and I was like, oh, that'll be really nice to see. But we didn't ever plan to turn on paid subscriptions on that publication. It was a pop-up thing. We did get 8 people pledge, and then I was able to reach out to them via DM and say, actually, like the Kickstarter's closing for the book. We've got all of these amazing extras. Like if you want to buy anything, like we're over here doing this. So it was nice to have that kind of warmth from those people and also that kind of connection to them. But now Substack have it, so you can build the pledges over time. And then when you're ready, if you launch at the same price that you set pledges at, they will automatically charge people that money. So it's
Okay.
brand new. So it was hard to get everybody that converted to paying because you were emailing them saying, "Oh, I've turned on paid," but you can't email them separately. You had to DM them and be like, "Oh, I've turned on paid." Like, and then obviously people felt awkward about that. But
Yeah.
now it's automatic. So out of 18 pledges that my client had, 18 of them converted to paid over the weekend. So I think that this is really nice for people that are building up. Okay, when I turn on paid, I'd run the vision to
Yeah.
turn on paid, but it might not be for like a year, maybe even 2 years, like 18 months like you, because it gives you that reassurance that people are interested and then you get to work on the specifics. So I just thought that was really interesting to
Yeah, that's
share.
really, it
Mm.
reminds me of well, actually, this might be something we could talk about because I know you did your Kickstarter last year, but
Mm.
crowdfunding is a thing like I have a lot of experience with for
Yeah.
my film. And I do want to make another film and more films. And in my kind of vision for the year, which I did with Sparkle in January,
Oh,
um,
it was such a beautiful call,
yeah,
that one, wasn't it? I should
really
probably do another
lovely.
one, like a mid-year,
Yeah, it
like
was
reset
really
vision. Yeah.
so launching this film club was, although I don't think I knew it was a film club then, but launching something was on there
Yeah.
for the Substack. But also, I would like to make another film, a short film this year, being realistic. And realistically, I think that will be crowdfunded or
Yeah.
crowdfunded for part of it. But I know, with the crowdfunding, I mean, I didn't necessarily always really manage to do this, but the best practice is to have got people lined up who are going to donate on day one,
Mm.
and there's a great kind of that gives you momentum with the crowdfunding. But obviously, as the person who's running the campaign, it gives you that kind of comfort, doesn't it, that you're not going to turn it on and it's just crickets.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the new version
Yeah.
of the pledges will operate a bit like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with crowdfunding, what's really interesting is giving people that incentive to want to pledge. So with the book, that was the only way that you could get the book until
Yeah,
we put it out on general release, but we weren't planning on doing that until later in the year. So I think we left it like a month after the book had shipped and people
yeah,
had downloaded it. So they really were the people to support it to get to market, but also like they were going to be the first people to have all of mine and Russell's knowledge together in that way. So
yeah,
that felt like a really easy-ish ask to the communities that we both had. And it was quite simple to get across. And like it was all Russell because my experience with crowdfunding campaigns is like it left me a bit cold. Like I felt a bit unloved and rejected when I tried to do mine. It was so hard.
oh
And
yeah, really hard.
I remember
Even
sending like a
great.
personalized email to like everybody that I talked to all the time in my life, and like I didn't get one pledge from that, and I was like, I just feel
Wow.
really gross. Like I don't know what that means. And like now I would obviously be like, oh, maybe they just need a nudge, maybe they meant to do it and then
Yeah.
forgot. But at the time, I was like, oh God, like nobody can see the vision. And me and Dave had this like beautiful vision called the Soil Web that was about
Yeah.
regenerating soil locally. Like we were so passionate about it. And then it was like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And the planet is on fire. And what's the point? If it was like really a lot bigger than me, I made it like massive. These are all the lessons that I've learned over the years. But I think if it is that specific ask and you know that you've got those people that like, oh yeah, I'm really passionate about Vicky's work. I'm really passionate about independent filmmaking, or I'm really passionate about, like it's that, isn't it? And like kindling that passion. And I think I was trying to convert them to be passionate,
I guess that
or
is
just
part of what I thought. What
yeah,
Substack is,
yeah,
that certainly when I came to Substack, that was what I was thinking. Like I've got this audience, and that's been one of the things that's been very interesting over this last sort of. Well, I brought everyone, or most, not I didn't bring everybody from that mailing list over.
mm-hmm.
Brought probably 2/3 of it. There were people who hadn't opened a single email since 2020, and I thought, well, they're not interested anymore. There's no point bringing them here. But of the people I brought in, there's I mean, in a way, it was a little bit demoralizing. For there was probably about a 6 month period where I was getting a lot of new subscribers through the Substack network. But
Yeah.
I was just losing. Every time I send an email out, I was just losing loads. I was just losing them as fast as I was gaining them. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just sort of stuck for sort of
It's
about
that
6 months.
recalibration,
Yeah,
isn't it? Like that kind of you re-owning like what that space is and inviting people in, and it is
yeah.
painful. It's painful to
But
watch, but it
knowing that
doesn't
the
mean
new
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
the new people are people who are interested in where I'm at
Yeah.
now and doing going
Yeah.
forward. And so that's
Yeah.
I that's what I was saying about seeing Substack itself as something that could be there could be and I'm not envisaging like a huge sort of a huge income or anything from Substack. It's
Mm.
still just like a fun, stimulating, creatively stimulating thing for me, and hopefully for the people who want to subscribe to be part of that.
Yeah.
Still just I guess like an extra adjacent to still want to be making films, and I do have this business idea. When I also came thinking I'm going to try, and I didn't really want to do Instagram. I don't know why. I've always been a little bit allergic to Instagram.
Hmm.
um, I haven't really got anywhere with this business idea yet because I've sort of got, I guess, like shiny, I've got excited by Substack.
Yeah.
But longer term, I do still want it. And it's a sort of documentary. It's like a life stories service that I want to start
Oh,
offering, where I will record,
amazing.
your nan's sort of like almost like
Oh,
make a
love
little mini
that
documentaries. But that's
so
something I want
much.
to do. But it's
Yeah.
that managing your we were talking about this just before we started recording. I'm just in awe at how productive you are and how much you seem
Oh,
to take.
thank you.
I'm full of the ideas. I'm never short of the ideas of like, I mean, I've had to do some work to be really clear about like what of those ideas, which are the ones that I should pursue and that really speak
Mm,
to me. And I've set some things aside that I felt like they had kind of income possibilities, but actually I
mhm.
didn't feel excited about doing them. So I've had to do some of that work, but the life stories thing does feel really exciting, but it's just that managing capacity, isn't it? And I do really want to make another film because I did write about this last year. Like, at what point am I still a filmmaker? I made this film, but it came out in 2020. I have produced another film with a friend of mine. It was his film, really, but
Mhm.
so I've done something since 2020. But it's kind of that's a very important part of me as a human and as a creator. And I feel like I'm not really been doing it. But there's lots of reasons for that. Financially and logistically, at the moment in my life with my kids and
Mm.
the finance. I did a big piece about this a few weeks ago about the just the money, those sort of revealing money posts, and I felt quite exposed, but I decided to make it completely public, and I'm very
Mhm.
glad that I did, particularly because within my sort of documentary world, I feel like there's been a feeling, a sort of sense of relief of like somebody actually saying, this is actually because my film's done really well. It's done all the things, it's on Netflix, it's on Disney, it had its cinema release, it's sold
It's
all over the
epic.
place.
Yeah. Mm.
It's great. It's done
Mm.
everything you want, but financially, it's an absolute total disaster. And I'm like
Mm.
£100,000 worse
Mhm.
off from having made it. It's terrible.
Mhm.
So I
I
have to.
don't think that is terrible. I think that's the
Oh no,
thing.
it's
It's
not
like
terrible. Thank you for saying that. It's not
yeah,
terrible.
no, no. And this is the interesting thing. And what we were talking about before we started recording is what goes on before the
Yeah,
outward looking success piece,
yeah,
because it would be easy just to think that I know exactly what I'm doing and always knew what I was doing. But like there's a 20-year career in
yeah,
festival and events. And then there was like, well, from 2017 until I came to Substack. So like 5 years basically of experimenting online and like deep dive in like people's podcasts where they were making a living online. Like I was obsessed, I was obsessed with, can we as creatives make work that connects online and make money from that? Like that was literally my obsession for 5 years. So like there is a piece that was like with Substack, I wanted to write for sure, but then it was like, oh wait, this is it. Like this is the moment. I just knew
Yeah.
like all the research that I'd done and everything building up to that. And I think, when you've made a film, you're always a filmmaker. So it's not like you need to make another film to become a filmmaker again. You're always a filmmaker because your vision will see the opportunity for film. Like your research will take you down those rabbit holes where you might make that film in 10 years' time, or you might sell it to somebody else. Or, it's like that's the thing, isn't it? Like the creative practice of committing to a thing is hard. And I think this a lot about books because I've said, I'm writing a book a year for 10 years. And on that journey somewhere, I probably will try or be offered a traditional deal, probably.
Yeah.
But it's not like I need to get a professional deal to be given that permission slip that I'm a writer. I'm like, I'll just be a writer. Like, why not? So I do think that we're able to like smash through some of those old paradigms and speak about things in ways that feel a bit scary and edgy, but actually people are like, oh, thank God you've said that. And that sounds like what happened with your piece.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting saying about smashing the paradigms. Because there is just this kind of massive sort of correction crisis going on in the documentary industry in the UK, in the US, kind of all over the world for all kinds of reasons. In a weird way, I almost feel like I've got a bit of a head start on some of my colleagues in the world because for various reasons, mainly to do with that, I had spent this time making this film. That film came out, and I had a baby, so I couldn't go back to work in the same way. So I've always been a little bit ahead of those people and thinking about what comes next. But there's lots of discussion of, what are all these freelancers going to do? What is our future? And I saw something on Substack. In fact, read a really interesting thing last week saying like, why are more freelancers, TV freelancers, not on YouTube? And like, that was really interesting. And obviously Substack is, are pushing hard with video. And so I'm thinking like maybe as you say, I've got loads of ideas for films, and I've been holding back really kind of throwing myself into a big feature film again at the moment. Maybe there's ways, this is also kind of in the back of my mind, maybe there's ways I can retool some of those ideas into something on Substack, like I don't know, or on YouTube, or something that's like a different. It's exciting, isn't it? There's new possibilities. I mean, it's different. I think it's more. It seems like the I guess the creator economy, TikTok, YouTube, Substack video. I would have to be more part of that, more kind of front and center. That seems to be how these things work. You have a channel, you're making the content, but it's you and your face on it, and that's quite different from my background in making documentaries where I'm like an observer out of it. But I don't know, it's it does feel like we're in this really, it's like we're throwing everything up in the air and who knows where it's going to land. Like the old ways they're not completely dead, but they're I don't know, it feels like,
there's definitely something in just that permission slip that we've been given the tech, right? So like I feel like, same as you, like 2020, everything just went on fast forward in terms of how we were able to use, like you and I just talking on Zoom. Like the first Zoom calls I did, I was like, this is awful. Like no, like I didn't know. Like my whole spirit was like, no, whereas now it just feels really lovely and like a beautiful thing that
comfortable.
and so all of that fast forward, and the fact that Substack have given us this platform where we can host video for free, because every time I worked on festivals and events, it was like, oh, but then where are we going to host it afterwards? Like, how's that going to work? And like, it all just seemed quite complicated. The amount of times I've been like, I wonder where that documentary is, that I made about that project. And it'll be on like the filmmaker's website. It's not even attached to the website of the cultural venue or something. It's just like, well, what? Like we had a real issue with like where things sat because of the size of them, or because like gatekeepers, like if it belonged to the local authority and you couldn't embed video and you couldn't embed YouTube. So there were all of these things. Whereas as creatives who are just free, there are so many ways, like serializing is beautiful and a beautiful way to communicate with Substack subscribers, whether that is audio, whether that's video, whether that's memoir-based stuff. Like there are so many ways. There's a guy who every time I go on the media tab, so I quite like the media tab on Substack, so on the
Yeah.
app. And there's a guy called David. I've got no idea who he is, but I was showing him to my husband. I was like, look, David is not filming this stuff. So it's all film and it's nature, but it's definitely not his films of nature. I don't think it could be, but I don't think so. I think he's like taking it from somewhere. He's got over 10,000 subscribers. So, like, people subscribe to his newsletter. He doesn't have a newsletter. He literally just puts beautiful video on notes, which then hits the media
Yeah.
tab when I
Oh,
click on it and I see it. And I'm like, oh, David is just wonderful. Although he's probably stealing people's work and I don't really know. But look, like, I don't subscribe to him. I don't need to because he's
yeah.
always at the top of my feed, I think, because I've liked so many. But if I went on normal notes on my phone, and if I went on normal notes on my desktop, I don't see David's stuff. So I'm like, there's this huge opportunity for
Yeah.
people that understand film and
Yeah.
ways to work with like human emotion and the pull of people wanting to watch film
Yeah.
that exists on Substack, and nobody's doing anything about it because people maybe haven't got the skill sets or whatever.
Yeah,
So
and it's
I think it's
learning, isn't it? That
fascinating.
serialized episodic thing. It's quite, I've come from a world where you've got your slot. There's the 30-minute slot, and there's the half hour, the 1 hour, and occasionally a feature length slot, but that's kind of gone away really. And
Yeah.
things live in those slots, and there's a grammar and a sort of language. In an hour, it's 7 minutes, 17 minutes, 17 minutes, 7 minutes with your ad breaks. There's this kind of structure
Yeah.
that things exist in, and that's all. Obviously, I mean, it's not like YouTube's been there for 20 years now, and
Mm.
there's been this real disconnect between like the TV world that I've come from and the sort of film documentary world and the creators on YouTube. But I've started watching. I have very belatedly, I guess, started actually subscribing to some creators that I like. And I was watching something the other day, and I was like, this is a documentary, really. He's
Yeah.
got archive, he's on screen though, he's there superimposed talking, and it's just a different way of thinking. And I guess it's so brand new for Substack, but I don't know, it's exciting to see
Mm.
what's going to happen with that. I mean, I feel like that's for me, that's probably in a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
it
might
is
want
it is
to.
interesting what you're saying about being front and center, because then we're getting into the realms of personal brand and like
Yeah.
likability. But then over on Instagram, the rise of the faceless brand, it's massive, like
Oh
massive,
really?
Vicky. Yeah, And so like when I look at Instagram and threads and everybody's talking about it, and these people have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers, but their face isn't on any of the images, and I'm just
Wow.
like, wait, what? Like, because
What
we
are they?
just, so
What's the content?
all of it, like all anything, but basically, like they're getting people to buy from them without people seeing who they are.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So some of it is a bit like, like there was like a selfies for introverts phase on Instagram where you would like take a photo and your camera would be like obscuring your face, or it
Yeah.
would be like, so there was like a whole self-expression thing, I think, in the photography world and like the small business world where it was like, oh yeah, we can be playful with this if we're introverts. But this seems to be something else entirely. And it's incredibly like provocative and powerful, but you don't understand why. And I think that is the fascinating thing about the internet. We don't understand why things are compelling. Like we don't understand the
Yeah.
psychology. And I read a lot about the psychology of it, but it still is hard to like wrap your head around. So the bit
Yeah.
that we've got used to is like, oh no, like we come on, we talk, we share our screen, like we host, so we are the hosters. But then there are these other things that do well, go viral, like however you want to look at it, that just break all of those rules and like do it in a different way. And I think some of it
Really.
probably is about the fact that it's just refreshing. It's refreshing not to be like sold to or, dragged into like, oh, this is what happens when, we talk about it all the time, Dave and I, because the kids, you've probably noticed this and know all about it, but the kids films like the cuts are like every 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
you can count like one, two cuts, one, two cuts. And then so if we put something on from our childhood, like we've just watched Mrs. Doubtfire, we've watched Jurassic Park a
Yeah.
few
It's really
times,
explosive.
but my son loves it. He's
Yeah.
mesmerized. He's just like, this is great. And I'm like, oh, thank God, because I can't watch the 2 minute cuts. Like I have to get up and like tidy the kitchen and make a cup of tea. But I do worry, like for them, I'm like, oh, this is like, is this what we need? And it's like, no, maybe we do need things to be a bit slower. Actually, we're just not being served it in that same way. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a rabbit hole, that stuff. But I do think that as a creative, you can choose, and then there's another part of understanding the tech and understanding human
Yeah,
psychology that you just need to sort of butt up against a bit and kind of cross section and work out, okay, like, well, I want
yeah,
to do this and I'm passionate about it, but where does it fit? So your idea for life stories, for example, like obviously, like my heart melted straight away, but because I don't have any footage of my granddad, like we
yeah.
don't
Well,
have it.
that's where it came from.
Yeah.
My four grandparents, well, they have all passed away now, but
Mm.
I'd always said, oh, I especially my nan, she had the most amazing life, and I always used to say to her, oh God, I must interview you, and I didn't.
Yeah, of course.
And then I
Yeah.
had one grandparent left, and I did do a sort of thing. I went down in, it's like 2018. He lived in Bristol. I took my phone. I literally just asked him. We did a kind of couple of hours, me chatting,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we had barely scratched the surface. And I said, I must come back, Grandad, and we'll do more of
Hmm.
this. And of course, we didn't. The pandemic
Hmm.
happened, and then
Hmm.
he passed away.
Hmm.
But just having what I have got, and for the rest of my family, for my mum and her
Hmm.
siblings, his voice, it was just on my phone.
Hmm.
But I think that's something I think I can bring, is like that, the interview
Yeah.
skills from my documentary work.
Mm. Hmm.
So that's something I want to do. But it's just making it all fit together, isn't it? I do want to make films. I'm wondering whether there's almost like an iterative. There's a film I want to make that's a very archive based film, about, I'm obsessed with our obsession with boarding schools in this country,
Okay.
and I'd love to make something exploring that. And actually that could be something that could be a sort of ongoing project where, like, I guess, like with my nuclear film, that's a very heavily archive based film, but I edit it together into a
Mm.
traditional 90-minute feature film with
Hmm.
interviews. But maybe I mean, I'm not going to do this because I've made that film, but there might have been an alternative if it was 10 years later and Substack already was
Hmm.
there. Maybe there was an alternative version where I was taking some of that archive and doing
Mm.
something different with it in
Hmm.
shorter bursts, and doing
Mm.
that, sharing that as I go. So
Mm.
these
Yeah.
all possibilities exist, and it's quite exciting. But also, I guess there's this aspect of like, I got to knuckle down and actually just do something. I
Yeah.
can be very up in the sky with all these exciting ideas, but actually kind of
Yeah.
doing the daily. That Substack has been very good for me in that way, like this sort of
Yeah.
discipline. I have said to myself for a long time, I said I'm going to do something weekly. I wrote these. Originally my publication was called Meandering Over the Pebbles, because I live
Yes, that was
right.
it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm meandering. I'm kind of, I'm meandering around. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going somewhere, and I'll be kind of meandering around to get there. Um, and my weekly sort of blogs were my weekly meanders. I've gone down to monthly now because I started doing, your content buckets.
Hmm.
I've started writing other things, and there's, capacity levels. I was struggling. It was taking me a lot of energy to sort of think about what I wanted to write once a week. And so
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do anything else. So I've gone monthly, but they're still my meanders.
Yeah.
Um,
That's nice.
uh, so yeah, I've lost my train of thought now, but
But it's
I'm
about
now
that
seeing
commitment
myself
you were
on.
saying, weren't you? But
Oh yeah, the commitment. But
there's lots of
I am still
things.
publishing. I'm
Yeah.
still publishing something broadly once a week,
Hmm.
and it took me 10 years to make this one film. It's something great about kind of being able to look back over the last sort of year, 18 months, and there's something exists now. There's a record of stuff that I've done. So somebody coming to me new, can can look through. Yeah, so I need to change this front page, because I recently rebranded, so it's now called Vicki Lesley is Documental, which is
Mm.
a nod to my documentary thing, but also that it's kind of it's a glimpse in my head, in my mind, or whatever.
You're gonna document it all. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Beautiful.
that what I've put there, that's now my kind of pinned post right now, is just the post I sent out to explain the rebrand. But I know I need to do I previously had I think it was called Who Am I and What Am I Doing Here, which was the
Hmm.
very first thing I ever wrote. But that
Hmm.
was now, that's like 18 months out of date now.
Hmm.
So I need to
Yeah. Yeah.
do a
And this is
version
what
of that.
happens as you start writing and the topics come through that ends up being then an overarching like explanatory topic of the topic. Like, and it's like
Yes.
you're almost like stepping on top of the topics, and it's like, oh, the topics live under here now, or now they
Yeah,
live under
yeah,
here, and that you can see that that's how this is panned out for sure. And you can change this now for sure, this pinned post, because people get it now. People will just
yes,
know
exactly. Yeah,
that that's you. Um, and also the invite before you launch is the
yeah,
invite where you won't be bothering anyone, you're just inviting them into this new
yeah,
space that you create in the film club. And that's really exciting. And you're excited about it because the people that don't want to be part of that will just make that decision but stay
yeah,
subscribed. So it's just that strong invitation to get them into that space. And then what you would want to do is similar to how I have on Sparkle, you would want to have that place for them. So like Members Hub or Film Hub
yeah. So
Club or
I'm
yeah,
writing my my sort of landing page, I guess,
yeah, yes,
go up just kind of in the next couple of days, hopefully.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's what that'll be the two shifts really, the invite and then the place for them to land. And then once you feel like that's launched and you feel really happy with it, then you will get the odd person paying just by mentioning, okay, like this is what we're doing, like if you want to go deeper with stuff.
yeah,
So but yeah, I mean, in terms of free readers, like once a month is totally cool. Like you can take it to once a season. You can say, look, like I've gone paid now, like this is what I'm doing
yeah,
with this space, but I'll update you once a season with like the meandering stuff or whatever else that you're working on and things. I think the mistake that people make is that they feel like, oh, I need to keep writing to my free subscribers and
yeah,
also do the membership. And it's like, yeah, you do, but you don't need to write to them every week or every month. Like you don't, like
yeah,
a newsletter can go back to being a newsletter because you have figured out as the creative what you wanted this space to be and like the main invite for you to be like holding and being paid for your work as well. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I always
sometimes that
say to
takes a
myself,
while.
if I feel, because I don't have a set date day of the week because that's too much pressure on myself.
Got you.
I try
Hmm.
and go sort of roughly. I try and do roughly probably three or four, probably four a month generally, but
Yeah.
not a specific day. Um, but then if I, for some reason, I don't manage to get one out, I try to remind myself that no one's like looking in their inbox going, "Oh my God, where's the email from Vicky?"
No,
That's,
no,
they're not doing that.
no.
Like they're
And I think there's ways with this as well that we can build a gentle container. So we might say, my email lands the start of the week. Like, so the start of the week could be Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Like
yeah,
that's the start. That my email lands midweek, Wednesday or Thursday. My email lands towards the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. Like, so it's just the language and also that permission slip, isn't it? And I think it is for me, I really like the emails that land at specific days, and I do make an effort to read them because I'm familiar they're going to come in.
yeah,
But I also make other decisions through the week, and like if there's something that I want to read, I'll read it, or I make a decision from notes and stuff. So I don't think we need to be too hard on ourselves, especially if our
yeah.
creative process doesn't allow for that. Like we can give
Yeah.
ourselves some
And
space
also,
and
like,
time.
reminding myself, because I do now live in the app, but as you're always
Hmm.
reminding us, I know for sure that massive majority of people who are reading my stuff are not in the app, even despite me constantly inviting them into the app.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
then it's in their inbox, they'll read it, even if I send it on whatever day I send it on, they'll read it when they're ready to read it. So I
exactly.
try
Yeah.
to,
And you can watch those. I'm obviously geeky about the stats, so I can help you guys with it all. But like the audio and the video is fascinating to me because there's very little engagement. Like there'll be a handful of likes, maybe like the odd comment, but there are thousands of people watching the
yeah,
videos and listening to the audio, and I'm just like, isn't that an amazing thing? They're listening, they listen to it all. Like it shows you as well, on lives, like how long you've got their attention for, even with the replays. And you're like, oh, wow, like all of these people, but like just a very small amount of them then comment or like, and
yeah,
like that's just the culture of what people are
yeah.
feeling like they're unable to do. And that's great. Like I love it, but
Listening in
it's
your
like you'd
podcast
never
app,
know.
that all
Mm,
your things feed through to the podcast. So I listen. I mean,
yeah,
if I'm on the app and I see you're on a live, and
yeah,
I'll hop on. But
yeah,
otherwise, it gets pulled through to my
yeah.
podcast.
So you can catch up with
So I
it
just listen
then.
to it there. But then it
Mhm.
would never occur to me, probably, if I've listened to you in my podcast app
Mhm.
out and about, to then go into Substack
Yeah.
and like it because it's
Yeah,
kind of, I
yeah,
mean,
it's
I'm
as like a separate thing. Yeah. I just think it's fascinating because if we can hold ourselves steady, especially for you as someone that is very skilled around filmmaking, and give yourself that permission slip that the process of making a documentary that's taken 10 years is incredible. And I know you feel like you've done a lot of the behind the scenes of that, but anything else that you decide to do will also be fascinating as a
yeah,
process because we're all different. So say if you did do the life story project and you said to us, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work yet. I just know that I'm passionate about this. I've got this one piece of footage with my granddad. I've started interviewing my family and trying to kind of get more pieces of the story. And just gave us that space and that permission slip to kind of
yeah.
follow along. And it is
Talked
that,
about it a lot last year because I did a lot of like
mm,
online business courses. Like I joined the Leonard Dawson's Academy. I did a lot of,
oh, did you? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I got to a point where I was like, actually, I just needed to step back because
Mm,
about what I want to do. I don't think I want to be out there doing like lots of online drawing people to me online. I see it more as a bespoke thing. It's more of it's a very sort of like a luxury product, I suppose, that
yeah.
I'll try and
That's
use like
nice.
word of
Mm,
mouth contacts and maybe do a
mm,
handful a year. So
yeah.
that was a kind of relief to understand that about myself. And I wrote about that. And,
Mm,
that's been very interesting as well. Kind of, I feel like I found like different. I was thinking about what you'd asked me to think about my journey on Substack, and one of the things that's been really great is this sort of sense of being able to bring my whole self.
mhm.
So in my newsletters for my film, I talked about what I was doing with the film. Obviously, if I'd been filming, I talked about the filming trip, and I did. I mentioned like facts about my. So I mean, I went on maternity leave in the middle of doing it, so obviously mentioned that I was pregnant. I mentioned that my son
Mm,
had been born, but I didn't talk about myself as a human. But
mm,
I do in Substack, and and it's took a little while to, I guess, learn that because it's not something I'd ever done really on social media before, being sort of very personal.
mhm,
But then I was getting responses to that from other people
mm,
going, oh yeah, like I relate to that, and that's sort of it's a positive feedback loop, isn't it? And kind of being able to be honest about. I feel like I'm going so slowly, or like I had this idea, and actually I did all of this preparation for this life stories, one iteration of it that I thought it was going to be, and then I was like, actually, I'm not doing it. I was writing on Substack, so I was like, I've got to it's what you're doing rather than what you say you're going
mm,
to do. What I was
mhm,
doing was showing up every week and writing on Substack. I was
mhm,
doing all the online business courses, but I wasn't creating the website. I wasn't doing the offer, and I realized eventually that that's because that wasn't what I really wanted to do. And so then I wrote about that, and I got some interesting replies about that.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
it's just been a real revelation, really, to be able to. Yeah, so I've got, I also through this period of time, I've gone on to HRT. So I talked about that, so it's like this whole bringing, and, my daughter started school, my son got his autism diagnosis. These are things outside of my work life, but that I've been able to bring them into
Mhm.
this space. So my hope is that then when I do, start to do more work things, I mean, this is how I feel for people that I interact with on the internet. When you feel like
Mhm.
you know them as a person, you're more invested in what they're doing and you want to support them. So it's, I mean, it's been a pleasurable thing to do, but also there is a sort of business rationale, I guess, to sometimes
Yeah.
I think, oh, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here writing my Substack every week and I'm not earning any money. Like, but I feel like it's part of, yeah, like you said, in, that period from 2017 to when you landed on Substack, you're kind of sowing
Mhm.
some seeds, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I
definitely, because I think it's about creative exploration, without pressure. And once we pressurize it, whether that's because we've got like a specific goal around the numbers or whether it's a monetized thing, like it changes it, it changes our relationship to it. Like it becomes a business, it becomes pressure. Like my YouTube at the moment, like, and I was laughing about this last week with Megan. Me and Megan Moran did a live together, and I was like, I just think it's so fun that I'm nearly monetized. And it's like almost when I become monetized on YouTube, I'll be a bit like, oh,
yeah,
like it's like that's the fun bit, right? Like being able
yeah,
to like get somewhere near and then be like, oh, isn't it interesting? Like, will this video do well? Will one from a year ago
yeah,
pop off? Like, I've got no idea, but I also am not obsessed with it. If if I was obsessed with it, I would need that to have worked a lot quicker. But because I'm not
Yeah.
obsessed with it, because I'm just holding it lightly, it's just like, yeah, that's cool. Like, we'll see what happens with that. And then also, it's that motivational piece, isn't it? Like, we are allowed to explore and then to go, this is the thing, build the thing like you are doing, you're about to launch. And then after you've kind of got into that a bit, there might be another then really clear thing that you're like, okay, like I'm ready for that. Or with the life story, somebody might just directly ask you. This is the thing I think you forget. Readers on Substack are like absorbing and reading all the time. So I don't particularly advertise my one-to-ones, but people come into my email inbox and say, can you send me the link so I can book a consult with you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's just people just build all of this kind of sense of us up and then make the ask. So yeah,
Yeah.
it can come in all sorts of ways, can't it?
It's just wonderful having that kind of, I mean, I know I need, one of the things on my list is obviously is build my actual website. And in fact,
Yeah.
I bought the domain last year and it's just coming up for renewal. And I was like, oh God, I've had the domain for a whole year and I still haven't built this bloody website. But you know, I
Mm,
know I will get there. But in the meantime,
mm,
like I do sort of exist online on my Substack and people can come there.
yeah. And
Like
that's a really beautiful
yeah,
thing.
they can
Yeah.
really have a sense of like what I'm about. I talk about the stuff to do with, I'm still writing on atomic stuff because I'm still interested in it. I spent 10
Mhm,
years in that world for the film,
mhm,
but also like maybe I'm starting in the atomic movies with the film club is still in that area, but
mhm,
I'm starting to think like maybe I'm coming towards the end of that and I can go
mhm.
somewhere else. But it's nice, isn't it? Just there's this freedom of the people. Hopefully, I think the people stay. People, yeah, they're invested in you. They'll follow you where you're going. If it's really nothing to do with what they're interested in, then they'll go. But hopefully,
The stay and
you are
there's
the
like
few
there's a
people will come
nice
in.
evolve, isn't there? Like when you follow people and follow what they talk about and what they share. Like I've just listened to Leonie's most recent podcast and that just felt fresh and brand new. And it's because they've evolved, you know.
Yeah,
That's been something, and I've been tethered to all of Leonie's work for 5 years. Absolutely adore it. Like credit Leonie with like a lot of the way that I've been able to like move through my own blocks in my business. It's been amazing. And then you listen to something and it's brand new. And I'm like, this was beautiful. Like I loved spending those 15 minutes with her this morning on my walk. So I think there's so many ways with it, isn't there? Enough steadying our confidence in it all and then inviting ourselves in to kind of go, okay, we don't have to have the future figured out. We can just keep
yeah.
showing up and know
Being
that
able to
the right
share the
thing will
process is
present. Yeah.
actually sharing yeah, sharing it in real time and
Yeah.
feeling confident that people will stay with you while you
Yeah.
try things out and seeing
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't. So that's why I'm trying to, I'm excited to launch this film club, but also, maybe it won't land and maybe it's not what people really want from me.
Oh,
So
I think it's going to be
I
great,
hope it will. I
Vicky.
mean, I think
I mean,
it's
it's
really
fine
fun.
that you want to like say that to yourself, and it's a beautiful, compassionate gift. But I think you've given it a lot of thought, and
I've
you're
given it a lot.
holding a beautiful space for people. And I think it will be beautiful, whether it's 10 people, 20 people, or whether it builds over time, whether people come and go. I mean, that is the other beautiful thing with the
Yeah,
Substack model. We do offer a monthly
yeah,
payment option. And so people take it and they come for a couple of months and then they leave. And that is part of what happens. So that kind of in and out bit that you've already experienced, that'll
yeah.
actually be really good for you because if that then happens with the film club, you're like, oh yeah, I know what this is. They
But it's
might
also a kind
yeah,
of
go
form
back
of
in
like,
time.
because each month is going to be they'll be on a theme. Like each month will be a
Mm,
different film, so it could be that
mm,
they'll go, oh, I've seen that, or I'm not interested in that, so
mm.
I won't come. There's, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm going to offer the monthly and the yearly, and we'll see. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, that kind of going into it with a spirit of experimentation, I guess, and
Oh, for
seeing
sure.
what
Yeah.
happens is exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're going to do a little audit, aren't we, together? So
Yes.
that's coming up as well. So that'll be really beautiful. And I think that'll re-enthuse like whatever happens when you like sent the launch post and then we'll do our little audit together and we'll see what happens next. But I'm a real big fan in just showing up and like evolving as we go. Like the website that I had in 2017 was built on WordPress, and every 6 months or so I would buy like a new skin like to put into it. And it was like always breaking, always really annoying. Like my blogs would go all wacky and like images would be lost. It was really odd. And then I'd already invested in Podia in 2020. And my friend had asked me about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I really love it." And like, you can do the. And so she then got it, and then I went on our website, and I was like, "How have you built your website?" And she's like, "Claire, on Podia." And I was like, "You can build a website?" Like literally not a clue. So then she was like, "Yes, you can just build it inside Podia." So then I was like, "Oh, great! So I can get rid
Yeah.
of WordPress." And it was like a whole weight had been lifted because I was tethered to something that just didn't work properly. And I think
Yeah.
now, because we trust Substack and we know that it can work well, and like I've hardly ever had any glitches in like 3 years,
Yeah.
it's so good. And then we can also think about how we want to host the other parts of it, like you mentioned Zoom, and you're sort of thinking about chat, like maybe there's a YouTube element as well, and like people can
Yeah.
have other things or whatever. So there's just it's just a joy for the tech to work. It's
Oh,
so
so much.
nice.
Used to have my own website, and I just got rid of it because I didn't really need it, because the film itself has a website which my distributors
Right.
handle, but
Yeah.
I manage it, and it's on a it's like a platform that was built for filmmakers, which I think the
Okay.
idea was meant to be that it's helpful, but it's actually very restrictive. Like you have to
Okay.
kind of put things into the boxes that they've kind of given you. But that
Mm-hmm.
exists. But I was thinking like the idea of yeah, just what held me up, I think, with getting going with that website was because I didn't really know what I was offering, and I was thinking about courses and things, and
Deciding
I was
what to
getting
put out.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was getting sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuck in a kind of, and what am I and who am I? Is this a filmmaker's website, or is this a
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't really done that, but I think just getting more. I guess the key, the central, or what's the right word? The common factor in all of these things is me, right? So that's kind of having to kind of lean into it's, so I bought a couple of domain names for like a business name, and I decided
Mm-hmm.
to scrap that. It's just going to be vickileslie.com because I think
Yeah,
it's
just
me.
keep it simple and
Yeah,
keep it you, and then you can have the brands underneath it. There's
yeah,
a work page that Leonie has, which is around writing your bio, and me and Dave, my husband, sat and did them together. And that was the first time that I understood what that meant, like where to pull
yeah,
the information from in terms of what's interesting inside of a bio. And
yeah,
that framework was just massively helpful. And I've basically like used an iteration of that since I did that piece of work. And I think sometimes it helps with the identity piece because like you, like I wanted the blend of the personal and the professional. Like I didn't want to just constantly wear a mask and like be this like really shiny happy person that turned up to manage festivals and events. Like I wanted to talk about the harder stuff as well, and
yeah,
like be really honest about like my neurodivergent kids and like all of that stuff, and it's like, well, where can that live when society like doesn't make space for that? So
yeah,
I think that in particular was really groundbreaking for both of us actually, because you always want to tell yourself, well, what is it? Like, what makes you unique? Like, what have you actually done? And then you write that and you're like, well, all this,
yeah.
So it's like, you just get to be really proud of yourself, don't you? So, yeah, that's a lovely one. I'll link it below if I can find the specific link. It's probably in the Sales Star course, I'm thinking, but I'll have a little look for it and stuff. But anyway, look, good luck with your launch. This is really
Thank you very much.
exciting. We're obviously going to be cheerleading you every step of the way. So like tell us in the Sparkle chat, like the day
Will
that
do.
you've put the post out and like when you're ready to like shout about everything. Remember about specifics. Like people love specifics. So if you can give them any specific days of the week or like the frameworks of like how it's going to pan out for the rest of the year, like
Yeah,
once they see you're committed to that, then they'll be like, oh, like she's taking this seriously. This is awesome. Um, and it also, if you're not specific and they ask a question, then it gives you that opportunity to weave FAQs into your
yeah,
page as well, because FAQs are that permission slip for people not to click away. So they're really useful as well if you can weave those in. I've started doing that more because people don't understand Substack, and because Substack send a lot of emails, people are like, I just wanted to get this thing. So that can be really
yeah.
helpful as well to just explain how they navigate Substack and all that sort of stuff. But it'll be gorgeous. And then you'll get to do some gorgeous work in the world that you really want to do too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Well, whatever else happens, I will enjoy it. So that's what
Yes.
I have to think.
Yeah, and it's
As long as I
gorgeously
like
brave.
it.
It's gorgeously brave work to be doing. That's what we always have to remind ourselves of. Like I know, like the first time when I turned on paid, like really soon when I came to Substack, and when people actually paid, I was like, oh no, like you weren't meant to actually pay. Of course, I wanted them to pay on some level, but
Yeah,
I just didn't expect it to happen. So I think that bit of just like setting out the stall and being brave is awesome for us because it moves us towards the next thing.
yeah. No, it's exciting. I think that's, I mean, I was talking to my partner. He's, he's been employed. He works for the NHS. He's had the same job for like since 1998. He's like super Mr. Cautious and sensible. And I was talking to him
Mm.
about, my plans for the film club. And he just sort of pulled this really worried face. And I said, oh, and I said, don't worry, I'll cheerlead myself. He said, oh, sorry. He said, he goes, it just sounds horrific, like for him, like the idea of putting himself out there. Whereas I don't know, for me, it does
We're all
feel
doing it, aren't we? Yeah.
that's exciting. It's kind of what I
Yeah.
did with the film all of those years. So it's just,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, it's
we're
exciting
all
rather than
doing it, and it
scary.
is
Yeah,
nice, and there's a freedom and a fun in it as well. Like
yeah,
we're always
it is
going to
fun.
have the two types of people. Like we've chosen a path that is maybe like non-linear and expansive in ways that other people would be scared by, but we like it, so
Yeah,
it's fine, isn't
yeah,
it?
I find the idea of being in one job for 25 years just deathly. It's just not.
I did used to think that. I did used to think that, and I was employed before I went self-employed. So I went self-employed in 2008. And I used to, yeah, I just used to feel a sense of like my spirit just like feeling crushed and like slightly dying, like even in really nice jobs. So I was like, oh, like I don't know, I just felt bored. So I
I've never
never
been
feel bored
employed.
now.
Even when I was freelancing, I was never, well, I was at one company for off and on for probably about 5 years before I fully went onto the film. But even when I was there, I was never employed. And I was always I would be
Mm,
like, I'm going off for a couple of months to
mhm,
do some filming for my film, or, I'm
mhm.
just, I don't know, I guess there's a sort of a itchy feet or something. And it's nice to be back kind of, I'm the boss of me, I guess. I can,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, I have a level of privilege, right? I can
Mm,
do this because my partner has got the
mhm,
same job for 25 years, and
mhm.
so I have a safety net, I suppose. But
Yeah.
that's how we work it out together.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And like you are answering the call, Vicky, and that's what we do. We answer the call until the call makes sense. And the more we answer the call and the more we step up to the plate, in my experience, the more you feel absolutely aligned. Like this is the thing. Like the soul whispers become like huge megaphone shouts of this is what you're meant to be
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
And
You
it
do the
feels
thing, and it's
really,
like it's
Mhm.
right or it's not right, and you
Yeah.
readjust. Yeah, it's
Yeah, for
great.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay, lovely. Well, it was so nice to see you. We're going to put this out today, which is so, so exciting. I love doing that in the fresh energy of a chat. And I will see you over at Sparkle really soon. Take care.
Absolutely.